Ladies and gentlemen, in a couple of seconds, you will hear pretty much why James Comey has already been indicted. Essentially already indicted by the Justice Department. CNN, ex-FBI Director Comey, and Brennan are under investigation, criminal investigation by the Justice Department. I believe also, almost certainly by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is exactly the reason why. And this is his testimony. This is exactly why he covered up, or he set up and framed Trump along with everyone else, using a dossier literally purchased by Clinton and the DNC. Check this out. This is the reason why. This is the basis for the indictments right here. Hit subscribe. This is huge.
And I could not see a door labeled no action here. I could see two doors, and they were both actions. One was labeled speak, the other was labeled conceal. Because here's how I thought about it. I'm not trying to talk you into this, but I want you to know my thinking. Having repeatedly told this Congress, we are done and there's nothing there, there's no case there, there's no case there, to restart in a hugely significant way, potentially finding the emails that would reflect on her intent from the beginning and not speak about it would require an act of concealment, in my view. And so I stared at speak and conceal. Speak would be really bad. There's an election in 11 days. Lordy, that would be really bad. Concealing, in my view, would be catastrophic, not just to the FBI, but well beyond. And honestly, as between really bad and catastrophic, I said to my team, we've got to walk into the world of really bad. I've got to tell Congress that we're restarting this, not in some frivolous way, in a hugely significant way. And the team also told me, we cannot finish this work before the election. And then they worked night after night after night, and they found thousands of new emails. They found classified information on Anthony Weiner. Somehow, her emails are being forwarded to Anthony Weiner, including classified information by her assistant, Huma Abedin. And so they found thousands of new emails.
Classified information was being forwarded by Clinton's team to Anthony Weiner. Okay, yet the Federal Bureau of Investigation director couldn't find intent in using a private server. Inherent, this is all doublespeak. This is a masterclass in doublespeak. Inherent in owning a private server is the desire to hide communication. That's why you would have a private server. That's why you don't have government email. Okay, number one. Number two, the bias is unbelievable, but the Comey letter is what sunk the Clinton campaign. It wasn't the Russians. It wasn't the DNC emails. It wasn't anything other than the Comey letter and their own corruption. They cheated Bernie Sanders. We already knew that. We know that classified data and top secret intelligence was transferred somehow, some way, illegally onto Clinton servers and emailed, and those emails were almost certainly intercepted by the entire planet. And then they tried to imprison Trump as a former president with the power to declassify without private servers because and by the way, there's no enforcement mechanism in the Presidential Records Act because a government library went after Trump for documents he had that every president has after they leave office. Again, Trump didn't have private servers. He wasn't forwarding classified data to people who were eventually convicted of serious, terrible, horrible crimes. And so you just heard right now, this is the basis of why they set up and framed President Trump and everybody around him. This right here. They were forwarding classified data to Anthony. Forget about the fact that it was Anthony Weiner. The fact that they were forwarding classified data and Comey couldn't find any laws that were broken is it's not only the most absurd thing you've ever heard in your life, it's the basis of why Russiagate started. The entire Russia hoax started because of immense corruption. And this is right here, the basis of the future indictments.
And then called me the Saturday night before the election and said, thanks to the wizardry of our technology, we've only had to personally read 6,000. We think we can finish tomorrow morning, Sunday. And so I met with them. And they said, we found a lot of new stuff. We did not find anything that changes our view of her intent. So we're in the same place we were in July. It hasn't changed our view. And I asked them lots of questions.
The fact that they would have to write a letter because classified data was being forwarded to Anthony Weiner And that didn't change the view that she intentionally used servers to circumvent record keeping, to circumvent so many other laws, and transfer classified data onto unsecured servers. How do you do so unintentionally? How is that even possible unintentionally? You might say, well, the statute of limitations are up. Well, the statute of limitations are not up when it comes to leaking classified information or leaking information, sensitive information, and also conspiracy, because the statute of limitations for conspiracy ends when the conspiracy ends. And so this is the basis. And then they say, and this is why the artificial intelligence is so far from being, really useful on it, like every day. Reports by the DOJ have cleared former Director Comey. No, they didn't. The IG never cleared anyone of bias. The IG report and the IG himself parsed words and said he couldn't find any documentary and testimonial bias. Well, what do you think they're going to do? Write down their conspiracy? Write down and testify that, yeah, we tried to set up and frame Trump because classified data was being forwarded to Anthony Weiner. So this is the artificial intelligence, that whole thing. Oh, you should really, you should leverage it. You have to leverage AI. Oh, leverage. Okay. Speaking of leveraging, let's talk about who he sent the classified data to for a second. Let's continue.
And I said, okay, if that's where you are, then I also have to tell Congress that we're done. Look, this was terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election. But honestly, it wouldn't change the decision. Everybody who disagrees with me has to come back to October 28th with me and stare at this and tell me what you would do.
If you are the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and you know that unclassified secret servers have obtained classified top secret intelligence, secret servers in someone's basement obtained classified data, and then you found out that that classified data was being forwarded to Anthony Weiner, maybe a law was broken? Maybe one law? Maybe? And then going after Trump at Mar-a-Lago for documents that he had every right to declassify? A president has the power to declassify, not a Secretary of State with private servers. Again, you might say, well, the statute of limitations are up. What are you even talking about indictments? He's not going to be indicted because of this. Yeah, this is the basis of why Comey will be indicted. He'll be indicted under 18 U.S. Code 371 almost certainly, and other statutes. I wrote about that in the Federalist years back, before Tulsi Gabbard declassified the documents. But Comey might turn on Clinton and not ever serve a day in prison. Comey might have the goods on everyone. And he's probably the most powerful individual, or the most the most knowledgeable, or the most influential or powerful, even more so than Brennan or Hillary Clinton. The man was able to write a letter, a memo, days before the 2016 election to completely tank Clinton's chances, and this is the only defense of Comey, not because of anything he did to directly sabotage her campaign, but because the cover-up that he implemented was so haphazard that they found new classified data being forwarded to Anthony Weiner. So it was a cover-up. There was so much classified data swirling around, they then had to write the Comey letter, maybe as a message saying, hey, we have the goods on you also. Then Trump comes in, fires Comey, and then you know what hits the fan, and they set him up and frame him. God bless President Trump. I love President Trump, but one of his worst mistakes was allowing Flynn to be kicked out, so he should have. Once they set up Michael Flynn, had he simply stayed with Michael Flynn and said, you know what, he didn't do anything wrong, he would have found out about Crossfire Hurricane and everything else. Once they set up and framed Flynn, they then were able to go and implement everything else that they set up and framed, that they did. But let's continue really quickly.
Would you speak or would you conceal? And I could be wrong, but we honestly made a decision between those two choices that even in hindsight, and this has been one of the world's most painful experiences, I would make the same decision.
So this is hilarious, but also the basis of future indictments, hit subscribe right now. This is huge.